Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the Sony RX0, and now a record number of you have done me the great service and helping me have my biggest video ever by watching my previous video on the RX0, and I want to reach out and say thank you so much for being a part of helping make my dream to be a content creator on this platform successful. I want to say thank you so much to the people that have subscribed to me from that video especially, but to the nearly 800 people that already have, thank you so much. You mean the world to me. Getting into the RX0 though, you know, they just, with the RX10 Mark IV, they just actually released it. So they announced it a little while ago, but they released it just recently. And the thing about the RX0 is that they keep saying this is not an action camera, and then they keep emphasizing that it basically is an action camera. I think what they're trying to get at though is, like I was saying in my last video, where this is a device that you can use for industry applications, for the filmmaking industry. What I was trying to say in my last video is that the 5D Mark IV might be, or the 5D Mark II or III might be completely irrelevant now that there's an RX0 that's a lot cheaper and easier to use on a film set, where you can put it in more places and all that. Now, the other really big feature about the RX0 is that it outputs 4K over a clean HDMI. Now, the thing that those two don't go together, right? Not at all, right? Because what you're gonna have to do is have 5 RX0s in random places through your set for your one take when you're gonna smash a car or blow something up or whatever. Right? You don't have the opportunity for multiple takes with a big set piece like that. I mean, they used 5D Mark IIs in the Avengers to get those same kinds of shots, where they only had the one take or two, and they had to have a camera that was durable and could be destroyed if they needed it to. But then you're also paying for the lens, and with the RX0 you already have the lens, but you're still not going to snake an HDMI cord ever how many feet off in whatever other direction, because that's going to interfere with everything, right? And while you could take it out in post hypothetically, like, wouldn't it be so much easier if you didn't have to? And that's why in this video I want to kind of address what accessories they need to have for the RX0, what accessories we should expect to be seeing, and what kind of a difference those will make. Smash that like button for the effusive energy if you like it, or dislike button if you hate it. So I think the biggest and the first is underwater housing, because it's a GoPro. They're trying to not call it a GoPro, but it's a GoPro. It has the same menus as other Sony cameras, so it's more or less intuitive for someone who's familiar with Sony menus, which is great. It's got buttons and everything. It's not just a touchscreen, which is great, but it doesn't go down, like, in terms of operation, it's great. But if you want to actually use it at depth, you need an underwater housing. I think an underwater housing has got to be one of the first things. I think they've got to have filters. Looks like they're going to have filters, because, I mean, you're not going to be able to control for shutter speed quite so well after a certain point in all conditions, right? So there's filters. There's also underwater ISO, or underwater white balance, pardon me, so that you don't need to put a dive filter on it, so that you can keep it as rugged as possible. That's awesome. But now moving away from that, because I think that's kind of the first big thing, because that kind of feeds back into it's already kind of an action camera bit. I think it needs to have about the same size as it is already, an external recorder that you can record 4K into, to an SD card slot, whatever. And importantly, I think that needs to be able to seal so that it can also go underwater, right? You need to be able to have the whole unit operate in every environment possible. And so I think it's very, very critical that this device, the RX0, is able to record 4K in S-Log 2 or 3 underwater with its little buddy, you know, under it or on top of it or whatever. I think that's a big deal. I think it's going to need a gimbal. Gimbals are super important nowadays, and a gimbal would make this kind of device so much more useful. If you want to get a POV shot of your hero running down a thing, or if you're a consumer who wants this device, you're going to want a gimbal for it. You're not going to, because again, like, the GoPro Hero X does so much better on the Karma grip than it does on anything else because they're meant to go together, right? Now, there are a lot of great GoPro gimbals, but I would argue that it's always best to go with your first-party manufacturer for the big pieces to amplify where that's going to go, where that tool, how you can maximize that tool if they make them. And GoPro makes the Karma, and it's not at a bad price either. So I'd say, you know, in the vein of action cameras, in the vein of very compact, very useful camera that can go anywhere and do anything, I think it needs a gimbal. And importantly, I think that gimbal also needs to be waterproof to whatever, I think it's like 6 feet that the RX0 is. I think everything that they're making in terms of accessories for the RX0, excepting a filter thread, need to be able to go to, you know, the 6 feet or the 10 feet or whatever it is that the RX0 can do just by itself. That you can't have a gimbal be drop proof or shock proof the same way you can the actual camera, but I think the waterproofness will make a big difference. Because I mean, if you're gonna dive, if you're a travel vlogger, you're diving, you want to have the best possible footage, I think you could get a mouth guard and a GoPro, or you could, you know, have a strap with your RX0 on it with a little housing for your with your recorder, not monitor, pardon me, and a housing for all of that on your gimbal, and be able to capture everything in beautiful 4K without having to buy a huge $3,000 underwater rig. I think those are kind of the really big points. I'm sure there are way more. I think there needs to be like a hub that you can connect like 15 of these to without wires. I think that, and then control that from your phone or something, just in order to sync up all the time code, just be able to press start and have all 15 start at once. I think there needs to be some kind of extra battery going on somewhere. I think all of those will be really, really key for this device to be everything that it can be. And I think the RX0 has so much potential to be so much more than a GoPro. I think industry applications, I think underwater, I think, you know, it just blows my mind what could be done with this kind of device. Because it's not working off a tiny sensor, it's not dealing with a terrible bit rate, it's not dealing with, you know, so many issues that GoPros have to deal with. Distortion, you know, the XD or the Sony FDR X3000 or whatever Sony's action camera is that has optical stabilization is like so far superior to every other action camera with its optical stabilization, and Sony's done a better than everybody else job almost of on-sensor stabilization. Obviously the GH5 is a big separation from that, but Sony's done a great job with their stabilization in this size format. So I think that we can expect gimbals. I think we can expect so many great things to amplify this performance, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they are. Let me know in the comments section what accessories you're looking for, and I very much appreciate your time and your attention, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.